On October 14th, 1982, Dr. Chidi Okonkwo signed out the keys to the Hendrick Farm excavation site for the last time. The log showed his departure from the Archaeology building at 7:43 p.m. His station wagon was found the next morning at the site entrance, driver's door still open, headlights dead from running all night. At 6:15 a.m., a groundskeeper discovered his body at the bottom of Trench 7. The Dutchess County medical examiner ruled it accidental death. Case closed in 19 days, but they never explained why a man who'd supervised 300 students over 15 years, who'd written the department's own safety protocols, would climb into an unstabilized trench alone in the dark. Or why Chapter 6 of his dissertation, the one scheduled for his defense that Friday, was missing from his office, his home, and every copy on file. The office smelled of old paper and radiator heat. Margaret Tillman had been reviewing graduate committee records for the State Historical Society for 11 years, but she'd never seen a file this thin. 3 pages. Okonkwo's entire dissertation committee correspondence reduced to 3 pages. She'd handled files for students who never finished, who dropped out after one semester, and those ran 20, 30 pages minimum. But a doctoral candidate 2 days from his defense? A man who'd been in the program for 7 years? She held the page up to the green glass lamp. The typewriter ribbon was wrong. Every other document in the file showed the faded blue of the department's old Royal. These minutes were typed in fresh black. Tillman found Dr. Robert Hendricks in his corner office on the 3rd floor, surrounded by Kodachrome slides and a carousel projector.
Mrs. Tillman, the Historical Society's annual records request, I assume?
The Okonkwo file. It's incomplete.
Hendricks didn't look up from the slide he was examining against the window light.
Chidi's file was handled by the committee chair, Dr. Brennan. You'd have to speak with him, though I believe he's on sabbatical in Greece until spring.
You were on the committee. You signed the attendance sheet for October 11th.
I sign a great many attendance sheets.
Do you remember what was discussed?
Hendricks held a slide up to the light. A ceramic fragment, reddish-brown, with what looked like a maker's mark.
Routine matters, formatting, citation style, the usual tedium of academic procedure.
He slid the carousel forward with a sharp click.
Chidi was a careful scholar. His death was a tragedy, but I'm afraid I can't help you with missing paperwork.
The department secretary had worked in the Archaeology building since 1969. Carol Pulaski knew where every file lived, every key hung, every budget line hid.
The Okonkwo file? I pulled it myself for the county investigator. It was complete then.
When was that?
2 days after they found him, maybe 3.
And the committee minutes from October 11th?
Pulaski's fingers paused over her typewriter.
I typed those minutes. Every committee meeting for 13 years.
The copy in the file is typed on a different ribbon. Fresher ink.
Pulaski pulled her hands into her lap.
Mrs. Tillman, I'm just a secretary. I type what they give me.
But you remember what happened in that meeting.
Pulaski glanced toward Hendrick's closed door down the hall.
I remember Dr. Okonkwo raised his voice. I'd never heard him raise his voice before.
She turned back to her typewriter.
That's all I remember.
The university library kept dissertation drafts in the basement, filed by department and year. Tillman found Okonkwo's folder in the Archaeology section. 1982. 5 chapters, bound with a rubber band that crumbled when she touched it. The title page read, Colonial Trade Networks and Indigenous Ceramic Production in the Mid-Hudson Valley, 1680 to 1720. Chapter 1 through 5, no Chapter 6. But the table of contents listed 6 chapters, and someone had written in pencil at the bottom of the page, Chapter 6, Site H7 Anomalies, to be filed separately. Tillman checked the separate filing system. Nothing under Okonkwo, nothing under H7, nothing under anomalies. She photographed the table of contents with her pocket Kodak and returned the folder to its place. The pencil notation was in handwriting she didn't recognize, but the chapter title told her something the official file never mentioned. Chidi Okonkwo hadn't just found artifacts. He'd found something that didn't belong. The Hendrick farm site sat 3 miles outside Rhinebeck, at the end of a dirt road that hadn't been maintained since the excavation ended. Tillman's Buick scraped bottom twice before she reached the gate. The county had posted no trespassing signs, but the padlock hung open, rusted through. Beyond the gate, orange tape still fluttered from wooden stakes, faded to pale pink by a year of weather. Trench 7 was partially filled in. Not by design, by erosion, leaves, a winter's worth of collapse. But Tillman could see the depth. 12 feet, maybe more. The walls showed clear stratigraphy. Topsoil, clay, gravel, then something darker. She photographed the trench from 4 angles. The measuring stakes were still in place, numbered with waterproof marker. Stakes 1 through 6 on the north wall. But on the south wall, between stakes 4 and 5, someone had driven a 7th stake. No number, just 2 letters carved into the wood. N.A. The county records office kept excavation permits in a filing cabinet that smelled of mildew. The clerk was helpful until Tillman mentioned Hendrick Farm.
That file's restricted.
Restricted by whom?
County Council. Something about pending litigation.
What litigation? The death was ruled accidental.
The clerk, a young man with a clip-on tie and a face that suggested he'd rather be anywhere else, lowered his voice.
Look, I just started in August. But I heard things. The family wanted to sue the university. Then they didn't. Then the file got flagged and I was told not to pull it for anyone.
The Okonkwo family?
I don't know names. I just know someone paid for a lawyer. Then the lawyer went away. Then the file got locked.
He glanced at the door.
The permit application's public record, though. That's in the regular system. Filed by Dr. Robert Hendricks, March 1981.
The permit application was 4 pages long. Standard boilerplate about soil disturbance, artifact cataloging, site restoration. But the attached survey map told a different story. Hendricks had marked 7 trenches for excavation. Trenches 1 through 6 formed a standard grid pattern across the colonial-era farm site. But Trench 7 sat apart, 200 yards north, in what the survey called undeveloped woodland. The original farm records, Tillman found them in the Historical Society's own collection, showed no structures in that location. No wells, no outbuildings, no field boundaries. Just forest that had been forest since before the Dutch arrived. So why dig there? The permit application offered no explanation, just a handwritten note in the margin, initialed R.H. Anomalous subsurface readings. Magnetometer survey 281. Requires investigation. Tillman had worked with archaeologists for 11 years. She knew what anomalous readings usually meant. Old foundations, buried metal. Sometimes nothing at all. But she also knew they didn't usually kill people. Dr. Patricia Mwangi had been Okonkwo's graduate student for 3 years before his death. She'd left the program 2 weeks after his funeral. Tillman found her working at a community college in Poughkeepsie, teaching introductory anthropology to freshmen who would never dig a trench in their lives.
Mrs. Tillman, I wondered when someone would come.
You expected someone?
I expected Dr. Okonkwo's wife, his brother, someone who loved him, not the Historical Society.
I'm trying to complete his file. For the record.
Mwangi's office was small, windowless, stacked with ungraded papers.
The record. Yes. Let me tell you about the record. The record says he fell. The record says he was alone. The record says the committee approved his dissertation without revision.
She pulled a cigarette from a pack on her desk but didn't light it.
I was at that committee meeting, October 11th. They didn't approve anything. They told him to destroy Chapter 6.
Mwangi lit the cigarette. Her hands were steady, but her voice dropped to just above a whisper.
Trench 7 wasn't supposed to find anything. It was Hendrik's pet project, some magnetometer reading he couldn't explain. Chidi thought it was a waste of time.
But he excavated it anyway.
He was a graduate student. You don't say no to your committee chair's committee chair. So he dug. And in August, at 9 feet down, he found bones.
Human bones?
That's what he thought at first. That's what he wrote in his field notes. But when he cleaned them, when he measured them,
She tapped ash into a coffee cup.
they were too old. The stratigraphy was wrong. The bones were in a layer that predated human occupation of the valley by thousands of years. And they weren't alone. There were artifacts with them. Ceramics, metal.
Metal? In a pre-contact layer?
You see the problem. Chidi saw it too. That's why he wrote Chapter 6.
She crushed out the cigarette.
And that's why they told him to burn it.
The State Archaeological Survey kept duplicate records of all significant finds. Tillman drove to Albany the next morning, arriving before the office opened. The survey coordinator remembered the Hendrick farm reports.
Okonkwo filed weekly during the summer. Good documentation, clear photographs. Then, in August, the reports stopped.
Stopped completely?
We received one more, September 3rd. But it was different. Hendricks's name was on it, not Okonkwo's. And it said they'd found nothing of significance in Trench 7. Recommended backfilling.
Do you have Okonkwo's August reports?
The coordinator pulled a folder from a gray metal cabinet.
3 reports, August 2nd, 9th, and 16th. The 16th mentions human remains, pending analysis. Then nothing until Hendricks's September filing.
What happened to the remains?
According to Hendrick's report, misidentified animal bones, disposed of according to standard protocol.
Tillman photographed all 3 August reports. The handwriting was careful, precise. The diagrams were measured to the centimeter. Chidi Okonkwo didn't misidentify bones. Not after 15 years. The August 16th report included a photograph. Black and white, slightly overexposed, but clear enough. An excavation unit showing bones arranged in what looked like deliberate placement. Not scattered like animal remains, laid out. And beside the bones, 3 objects. 2 ceramic fragments with geometric patterns. And something else. Cylindrical, metallic, corroded but recognizable. Tillman had seen enough museum collections to know what she was looking at. A trade bead. The kind Dutch merchants brought to exchange with indigenous peoples in the 17th century. But the bones were beneath the trade goods layer. Thousands of years beneath it. And metal trade beads didn't exist thousands of years ago. Not in the Hudson Valley. Not anywhere. Someone had put those objects there. Someone had staged a find. And Chidi Okonkwo had documented it before anyone could stop him. Tillman understood now why the committee wanted Chapter 6 destroyed. It didn't just report anomalous findings. It reported fraud. The university's specimen storage occupied a converted barn behind the archaeology building. Tillman found it locked, but the facilities manager was persuaded by her historical society credentials.
Nobody comes here anymore. Budget cuts. They stopped the climate control last winter.
The barn smelled of mold and mouse droppings. Metal shelving units held labeled boxes stretching back to the 1950s.
I'm looking for Hendrick Farm, 1981 or 1982.
Try the back corner. Recent stuff's all back there.
Tillman found the section. Hendrick Farm, trenches 1 through 6. Boxes labeled with catalog numbers, dated, sealed with packing tape. Standard procedure. No trench 7. She checked the inventory log mounted on the end of the shelving unit. Trenches 1 through 6 were listed with contents and dates. Trench 7 appeared once, dated August 22nd, 1981. Next to it, someone had written in red ink, transferred RH 9481. Transferred where? The log didn't say. But the date was the day after Hendricks filed his report, saying nothing significant had been found. Dr. Eleanor Vance had retired from the Archaeology Department in 1980, 2 years before Okonkwo's death. But she'd supervised his master's thesis, and she still lived in a Victorian house 3 blocks from campus.
Margaret Tillman. I remember you from the Historical Society's fundraiser. You asked intelligent questions about Dutch colonial ceramics.
I'm asking questions about Chidi Okonkwo now.
Vance was 82, sharp-eyed, her living room filled with books and artifacts from 50 years of fieldwork.
Chidi was the best student I ever had. Careful, methodical. He could read stratigraphy like other people read newspapers.
Did you know about Trench 7?
I heard rumors. After I retired, Robert Hendricks stopped consulting me about anything. But other faculty talked.
What did they say?
Vance set down her teacup.
They said Hendricks found something that would make his career. And then they stopped talking about it entirely.
And Okonkwo?
Chidi called me 3 days before he died. He said he needed to show me something. We were supposed to meet that Saturday.
Her voice caught.
He never came.
Tillman spent the evening in the Historical Society's map room, tracing property records for the Hendrick Farm site. The land had changed hands 7 times since 1680, but the boundaries remained consistent until 1979. In March of that year, the state had condemned a 12-acre strip along the northern boundary for a highway expansion that was never built. The condemnation included the woodland where Trench 7 would later be dug. The condemning authority was the Department of Transportation, but the acquisition was handled by a private law firm, Brennan, Caldwell, and Associates. Brennan, the same name as the committee chair who'd signed the falsified minutes, the one conveniently on sabbatical in Greece. Tillman pulled the condemnation documents. Standard language, standard procedure. But the appraisal value caught her attention. The state had paid $340,000 for 12 acres of undeveloped woodland. In 1979, that same acreage should have been worth perhaps $15,000. Someone had paid 20 times market value for land that had nothing on it, or nothing that was supposed to be there. The law firm's address led to a glass office building in Albany. Tillman arrived at 9 a.m. and asked for the partner who'd handled the 1979 land acquisition.
Mr. Brennan is unavailable. Do you have an appointment?
I'm from the State Historical Society. I have questions about a property transaction.
The receptionist's smile didn't waver, but her hand moved toward the phone.
I'll see if someone can help you. Please have a seat.
Tillman waited 40 minutes. The someone who finally appeared wasn't a lawyer. He was a thick-necked man in a suit that didn't quite fit, with the posture of someone who'd spent time in uniform.
Mrs. Tillman? I'm afraid Mr. Brennan's files from that period are in storage. If you'd like to submit a formal records request...
I'm not looking for files. I'm looking for an explanation of why the state paid 20 times market value for worthless woodland.
The man's expression didn't change.
I wouldn't know anything about that. But I'd suggest you be careful about making accusations without evidence.
He held the door open.
Have a safe drive back.
That night, Tillman found her car had been moved. She'd parked facing east. Now it faced west. Nothing was missing. Nothing was damaged. Just moved. She drove home checking her mirrors every 30 seconds. The Historical Society's director called the next morning.
Margaret, I've had a complaint. From the university. They say you've been misrepresenting your authority to access restricted records.
I've been doing my job, completing incomplete files.
The Okonkwo file isn't our responsibility. The county closed the case.
The county's file is locked. The university's file is falsified. Someone rewrote the committee minutes after he died.
Silence on the line.
Margaret, I've known you 11 years. You're thorough. You're careful. But this isn't a historical society matter. It's a police matter, if it's anything.
The police ruled it accidental.
Then perhaps it was.
Tillman hung up and looked at the photograph spread across her kitchen table. The trench. The bones. The falsified minutes. Someone had killed Chidi Okonkwo, and someone was still protecting the secret he'd died for. Tricia Mwangi agreed to meet again, but not at the college. She chose a diner off Route 9, halfway between Poughkeepsie and Rhinebeck.
You're still digging? I thought you'd give up after they warned you.
Who told you they warned me?
No one tells me anything anymore. But I know how they work.
You said the committee told Okonkwo to destroy Chapter 6. What exactly was in it?
I never read it, but Chidi told me what he found. The bones weren't old. They were recent, 20th century, maybe newer. Someone had buried them in an artificially aged layer, along with artifacts that didn't belong together. Dutch trade goods mixed with pre-Columbian ceramics. Metal objects in a stratum that should have been pure clay.
A fake archaeological site.
A very expensive fake. Someone spent years creating it. And Chidi figured out why.
Why?
Mwangi glanced at the door.
He wouldn't tell me. He said it was better if I didn't know.
The magnetometer survey Hendricks had referenced in the permit application should have been filed with the State Geological Survey. Tillman drove to their offices in Troy the next morning.
February 1981. Let me check the logs.
The technician was young, helpful, unaware of any controversy.
Here it is. Hendrick Farm Survey. Requested by Dr. Robert Hendricks, University Archaeology Department. We did the fieldwork on February 12th.
What did you find?
According to our report, significant metallic anomalies in the northwest quadrant, consistent with buried ferrous objects at approximately 3 meters depth.
That would be Trench 7.
Looks like it. But here's the thing. We recommended excavation to identify the source. Standard procedure. But then we got a follow-up request in September. They wanted us to resurvey and issue an amended report saying the anomalies were natural mineral deposits.
Did you?
The technician's face reddened.
My supervisor handled that. I wasn't involved. But yeah, the amended report is the one on file now.
And the original?
I shouldn't be showing you this.
He handed her a carbon copy.
But someone should know what we actually found.
The original magnetometer report showed readings that couldn't be explained by natural deposits. The anomaly pattern was too regular, too concentrated. Something large and metallic had been buried at the site years before Hendricks ever requested the survey. Tillman spread the documents across her motel room bed. The timeline was becoming clear. 1979. State condemns 12 acres of woodland at 20 times market value. Brennan's law firm handles the transaction. 1981. Hendricks requests magnetometer survey. Finds metallic anomalies. Files permit for excavation. August 1981. Okonkwo digs Trench 7. Finds bones and artifacts that don't belong. Begins Chapter 6. September 1981. Hendricks files report saying nothing found. Magnetometer survey amended. Specimens transferred. October 1982. Okonkwo's dissertation defense scheduled. Committee tells him to destroy Chapter 6. 3 days later, he's dead. The question wasn't what Okonkwo found. The question was what had been buried there in the first place, and who had paid $340,000 to make sure it stayed hidden. The Okonkwo family lived in a modest house in Kingston. Chidi's widow, Grace, still wore black when she answered the door.
Mrs. Tillman, Dr. Vance told me you might come.
I'm sorry to disturb you. I know this must be painful.
What's painful is the silence. 1 year and no one will say his name. His colleagues, his students, they act like he never existed.
The living room was small, clean, filled with photographs of a life interrupted. Chidi at excavation sites. Chidi at his graduation. Chidi with 2 young children who now played in the next room.
Your husband called Dr. Vance 3 days before he died. He wanted to show her something. Do you know what it was?
He had a folder. He kept it separate from his other work. He said it was insurance.
Insurance?
In case something happened. He said if the committee wouldn't listen, he'd go to the state, to the newspapers, to anyone who would.
Grace's voice hardened.
The folder was gone when they brought his things home. Everything else was there, just not that.
Tillman asked about the lawsuit, the one the county clerk had mentioned. Grace's expression went cold.
We hired a lawyer, a good one, from New York. He said we had a case. Negligence at minimum, maybe more.
What happened?
He received a visit. He wouldn't tell me from whom, but the next day he called to say he couldn't represent us anymore. Conflict of interest, he said. Every lawyer in the county said the same thing. Someone paid them. Or threatened them, it doesn't matter which.
Grace stood and walked to the window.
My husband found something that scared powerful people. He documented it. He tried to do the right thing. And they killed him for it.
You believe it was murder.
I know it was murder. I just can't prove it.
She turned back to Tillman.
He mentioned me?
He said you asked the right questions. He said that was rare.
The university personnel office kept faculty records in a fireproof vault in the administration building basement. Tillman's Historical Society credentials got her past the front desk, but no further.
Faculty files are confidential, even for deceased employees.
I'm not asking for personnel matters, just publication records, conference presentations, grant applications.
The clerk hesitated.
Grant applications are filed separately. Those might be accessible.
20 minutes later, Tillman had a folder containing every grant Robert Hendricks had applied for since 1975. Most were standard academic funding, NEH, State Humanities Council, private foundations, but one stood out. In 1978, Hendricks had received $175,000 from an organization called the American Heritage Foundation. The grant was for archaeological survey and preservation of significant colonial-era sites in the Hudson Valley. Tillman had never heard of the American Heritage Foundation. She wrote down the address, a post office box in Washington, D.C. The grant application included a letter of recommendation. The signatory was Gerald Brennan, the committee chair, the same Brennan whose law firm had handled the land condemnation, the same Brennan now conveniently in Greece. The American Heritage Foundation had no listing in any directory Tillman could find, no phone number, no officers, no tax records in New York State. She called a contact at the State Attorney General's office, a former colleague from her days in the state archives.
Heritage Foundation. Let me check our database.
10 minutes of hold music.
Margaret, where did you find this name?
A university grant application. Why?
The American Heritage Foundation is a known front. We've seen it in 3 separate investigations over the past decade. Money laundering mostly, sometimes worse.
Worse how?
The foundation receives money from overseas sources, routes it through domestic channels. We've traced some of it to organized crime in New Jersey, some to political operations we couldn't identify.
Tillman felt the pieces shifting.
Margaret, whatever you've stumbled into, be careful. The people behind that foundation don't like questions.
I've noticed.
I mean it. 2 IRS agents who investigated them in '76 both had car accidents within 6 months. Neither one was ever the same.
Tillman couldn't sleep that night. She sat in her kitchen with the photographs and documents, arranging and rearranging them like puzzle pieces. The fraud wasn't archaeological. The fake site, the planted artifacts, those were cover. Someone had buried something at Hendrick Farm long before Hendricks ever got his grad. The magnetometer proved that. The state had paid $340,000 for worthless land in 1979. Brennan's firm handled it. That same year, Brennan wrote a recommendation letter for Hendrick's grant from a foundation connected to organized crime. The excavation wasn't research. It was retrieval. Hendricks was supposed to dig up whatever had been buried and make it disappear under the cover of legitimate archaeology. But Okonkwo was too good. He documented everything. He recognized the fraud. And when the committee tried to silence him, he made copies that were now missing. Unless Grace was wrong. Unless Chidi hadn't kept his insurance at home. Tillman thought about his last phone call to Dr. Vance. He'd wanted to show her something. Somewhere he trusted. Somewhere the committee wouldn't look. Dr. Vance's Victorian house was dark when Tillman arrived at 7 a.m. She rang the bell twice before a light came on upstairs.
Mrs. Tillman,
This is unexpected.
Dr. Vance, when Chidi called you, when he said he wanted to show you something, where were you supposed to meet?
At my home. He said he'd bring the materials here.
Did he say what kind of materials?
Photographs, documents. He said he had proof of something terrible. But he was afraid to keep it at his house or his office.
Tillman felt her pulse quicken.
Dr. Vance, is it possible he already gave them to you? Before that phone call? Somewhere you might not have noticed?
Vance's eyes widened.
He returned a book. 2 weeks before he died. A first edition I'd lent him years ago. I never opened it. I just put it back on the shelf.
She was already moving toward the study.
Colonial Ceramics of the Northeast. 3rd shelf from the top.
Tillman reached for it. The book was heavier than it should have been. When she opened it, a manila envelope fell out. Chidi Okonkwo's insurance policy. Hidden in plain sight for over a year, the envelope contained 47 pages. Photographs, field notes, carbon copies of correspondence, and Chapter 6 of Chidi Okonkwo's dissertation. Tillman read it at Vance's kitchen table while the old woman made coffee. Neither of them would drink. The chapter was meticulous, devastating. Okonkwo had documented every anomaly. Bones that showed modern dental work buried in pre-colonial strata. Trade beads manufactured in the 20th century, not the 17th. Soil that had been artificially aged with chemicals, but the final section was what mattered. Okonkwo had identified what the fake site was meant to hide. In 1977, according to newspaper clippings he'd gathered, an armored car had disappeared in Dutchess County. 3 guards dead, $2 million in cash never recovered. The FBI investigated for 6 months, then quietly closed the case. The coordinates of the disappearance were 4 miles from Hendrick Farm, and the shell casings Okonkwo found at the bottom of Trench 7 matched the caliber used to kill the guards. Someone had buried the money and the evidence where no one would ever look. The newspaper clippings told the rest. The armored car heist had been connected to the Genovese crime family. 3 suspects identified, never charged. One of them had a brother-in-law who worked in the State Department of Transportation, the same department that condemned 12 acres of woodland at 20 times market value.
They buried the money at Hendrick Farm. Then they bought the land through the state to make sure no one could develop it.
And when Hendricks got his grant, they saw an opportunity.
Use a legitimate excavation to retrieve the cash. Hendricks digs it up, claims he found nothing significant, transfers the specimens to himself. No one questions an archaeology professor moving boxes of dirt.
But Chidi documented everything.
He didn't know what he'd found at first. He thought it was just academic fraud, a fake site to boost Hendricks's career. But when he started researching, when he found the connection to the heist...
Tillman looked at the final page of Chapter 6. Okonkwo had written a note in the margin. Show to FBI? Or state police? Must have documentation first.
He was building a case. And they found out.
Tillman made 3 sets of copies at the Historical Society before anyone arrived for work. 1 for herself, 1 for Dr. Vance, 1 for the FBI field office in Albany. The agent who took her statement was polite but skeptical.
Mrs. Tillman, you're alleging that a university professor conspired with organized crime to use a fake archaeological site as cover for retrieving stolen money, and then murdered a graduate student to keep it quiet.
I'm alleging that Chidi Okonkwo documented evidence that proves exactly that. The documents are in the envelope.
Which you found hidden in a book after more than a year.
Which Dr. Okonkwo hid there because he knew his life was in danger.
The agent flipped through the pages.
The 1977 heist is still technically an open case. I'll need to consult with my supervisor.
Will you reopen the investigation?
I'll need to consult with my supervisor.
Tillman left the field office, knowing she'd set something in motion. Whether it would move forward or be buried like everything else, she couldn't say. The call came 3 days later. Not from the FBI. From Carol Pulaski, the department secretary.
Mrs. Tillman, I shouldn't be calling you, but you need to know. Dr. Hendricks is leaving.
Leaving?
The university accepted his resignation this morning, effective immediately. He's taking a position in Portugal, Some research institute I've never heard of.
Portugal doesn't have an extradition treaty with the United States.
I know.
Tillman gripped the phone.
When does he leave?
His flight is tomorrow night. But Mrs. Tillman, he's at his office now, cleaning out his files, shredding things.
Tillman was already reaching for her car keys.
Be careful, he's not alone. That man from the law firm is with him.
Thank you, Carol.
Chidi was a good man. He deserved better than what they gave him.
The line went dead. Tillman grabbed the copy she'd kept hidden in her closet and headed for the door. The archaeology building was quiet for a Thursday afternoon. Most faculty were at a conference in Boston. The hallways echoed with Tillman's footsteps. She found Hendrick's office on the third floor. The door was closed, but light showed underneath, and she could hear the rhythmic grinding of a paper shredder. Tillman knocked once, then pushed the door open. Hendrick stood behind his desk, feeding documents into a shredder. The thick-necked man from the law firm sat in a chair by the window, watching. Neither seemed surprised to see her.
Mrs. Tillman, I wondered when you'd appear.
Running away, Dr. Hendricks?
Accepting a prestigious international position. There's a difference.
The shredder whined as another page disappeared.
The FBI has Okonkwo's documentation. The chapter you tried to destroy. The photographs. The connection to the armored car heist.
Hendricks's hand paused over the shredder.
I'm sure I don't know what you're talking about.
Let me tell you what I know, Dr. Hendricks. In 1977, an armored car was robbed 4 miles from Hendrick Farm. $2 million disappeared. 3 guards died.
She stepped further into the office.
Someone connected to that robbery buried the money on state land. Then, in 1979, the state, through Brennan's law firm, condemned that land at 20 times its value. A payoff. Hush money.
The thick-necked man shifted in his chair. Hendricks kept feeding papers into the shredder.
You got your grant in 1978 from a foundation that's been connected to organized crime in 3 separate investigations. Your job was simple. Dig up the money under cover of legitimate research. But Chidi Okonkwo documented everything. He found the shell casings. He found the modern bones. He figured out the connection.
Speculation. Conspiracy theories from a records clerk with too much time on her hands.
Then why are you shredding documents? Why is your friend here? Why are you fleeing to a country that won't extradite you?
Hendricks finally looked up.
Because I'm not a fool, Mrs. Tillman, and neither are you.
The thick-necked man stood. His hand moved toward his jacket.
No, not here.
She knows too much.
And she's already given everything to the FBI. Killing her now accomplishes nothing except confirming everything she's said.
Tillman's heart was pounding, but she kept her voice steady.
You killed Chidi Okonkwo. You pushed him into that trench. Or you had your friend here do it.
I was at a conference in Philadelphia that night. Documented. Verified.
But he wasn't.
She pointed at the thick-necked man.
And Brennan wasn't. And whoever else is part of this wasn't. One of you went to the site. One of you killed a man who was only trying to do honest work.
The man's face was expressionless.
You can't prove anything.
I don't have to. The FBI will.
Hendricks switched off the shredder.
My flight leaves in 26 hours, Mrs. Tillman. I suggest you spend that time somewhere safe.
Tillman left the building and drove directly to the state police barracks in Rhinebeck. The trooper at the desk listened to her story with increasing skepticism.
Ma'am, you're telling me a university professor is connected to a 5-year-old armored car robbery and killed a graduate student to cover it up.
I'm telling you, he's fleeing the country tomorrow, and you need to stop him.
The Okonkwo death was investigated. Ruled accidental.
By whom?
The trooper checked his files.
Dutchess County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Frank Morano handled the investigation.
And where is Deputy Morano now?
The trooper's face changed.
He retired. 6 weeks after the investigation closed. Moved to Florida.
Did he have a pension?
I wouldn't know.
Find out. And while you're at it, find out who else retired early, moved away, or suddenly came into money after October 1982.
The trooper was writing now.
I'll make some calls. But I can't promise anything.
Tillman spent the night at Dr. Vance's house, sleeping in a guest room with a chair wedged under the doorknob. By morning, she had 3 messages on her answering machine at home. The first was from the FBI agent. He wanted to schedule a follow-up interview. The second was from the state police. Deputy Morano had indeed purchased a house in Sarasota, Florida, 6 months after his retirement. Cash. No mortgage. The third was from Patricia Mwangi.
Mrs. Tillman, it's Patricia. I heard what you did. Confronting Hendricks. I should have done that a year ago. I was too scared.
Her voice cracked.
I'm going to give a statement. To the FBI, to the police, to whoever will listen. I was at that committee meeting. I heard them threaten him. I should have said something then.
A pause.
Dr. Okonkwo trusted you. He was right to.
The machine clicked off. Tillman replayed the message twice, then called the FBI. The FBI moved faster than Tillman expected. By noon, agents had arrived at the university. By 2 o'clock, they'd obtained a warrant. By 4, they'd arrested Robert Hendricks at JFK Airport, attempting to board a flight to Lisbon. The thick-necked man, identified as James Paletti, a security consultant with ties to the Genovese family, was arrested the same afternoon at his Albany apartment. Gerald Brennan remained in Greece. Extradition proceedings would take months, maybe years. But his law firm's records had been seized. The paper trail led backward through shell companies and cash payments to the 1977 robbery, and forward through falsified documents to Chidi Okonkwo's death. Tillman watched the evening news in Dr. Vance's living room. The report was brief. A university professor arrested for fraud, possible connection to organized crime, investigation ongoing. No mention of Okonkwo. No mention of the murder.
They'll never call it what it was.
Maybe not. But someone will know.
She thought of Grace Okonkwo, watching the same broadcast in her Kingston living room, waiting for justice that might never be named. The trial, when it came 18 months later, focused on fraud and conspiracy. The prosecution had enough evidence to convict Hendricks and Paletti on charges related to the armored car robbery, money laundering, obstruction of justice, conspiracy to conceal stolen property. But the murder charge never materialized. Without a witness, without physical evidence placing anyone at the trench that night, the district attorney declined to prosecute. Tillman testified for 3 hours. She presented the documents, the photographs, the timeline she'd assembled. The defense attorney tried to discredit her, a records clerk playing detective, but the evidence spoke for itself. Patricia Mwangi testified about the committee meeting, the threats, the pressure to stay silent. Dr. Vance testified about Okonkwo's character, his carefulness, his integrity. Grace Okonkwo sat in the gallery every day, silent, watching the men who had destroyed her family. In the end, Hendricks received 12 years. Paletti received 18. Neither was ever charged with Chidi Okonkwo's death. 2 years after the trial, Tillman received a package at the Historical Society. No return address. Inside was a single photograph and a brief note. The photograph showed Trench 7, fully excavated, taken from an angle she'd never seen. A body lay at the bottom. Okonkwo, face visible, eyes open. The timestamp in the corner read, October 15, 1982, 6:47 a.m. The note was typed. He didn't fall, he was pushed. I was there. I can't live with it anymore. No signature, no identifying marks. Tillman turned the photograph over. On the back, written in pencil, Deputy Morano, badge 2847. The deputy who'd investigated the death. The deputy who'd ruled it accidental. The deputy who'd retired to Florida on cash. He'd been there. He'd seen it happen. He'd photographed the body before anyone else arrived. And 25 months later, he'd finally told someone. Tillman drove to Florida. Found Morano in a trailer park outside Sarasota, drinking himself to death on a pension he hadn't earned.
I knew you'd come eventually. Someone always does.
You watched them kill him.
I didn't watch. I arrived after. Paletti called me, said there'd been an accident, needed it handled quiet.
He wouldn't meet her eye.
I took the picture for insurance. in case they ever tried to cut me out. Stupidest thing I ever did. Kept it in a safe deposit box all these years.
Why send it now?
Doctor says I've got 6 months, maybe less. Figured I should tell somebody what I saw.
What did you see?
Morano's hands shook as he lit a cigarette.
His neck was broken before he went into that trench. The fall didn't kill him. Paletti did.
Tillman sat in the plastic chair across from him, recording every word.
I've been waiting for this, for someone to finally ask.
I'm asking.
Then I'll tell you everything.
Frank Morano died 11 weeks after Tillman's visit. His deathbed confession, recorded on cassette, was submitted to the Dutchess County District Attorney. Combined with the photograph, it provided enough evidence to reopen the investigation into Chidi Okonkwo's death. James Paletti, already serving 18 years, was charged with first-degree murder. He pleaded guilty to avoid trial, adding another 25 years to his sentence. The university, after years of silence, issued a posthumous doctorate to Dr. Chidi Okonkwo. His dissertation, all 6 chapters, was accepted into the archive. His name was added to the memorial wall in the Archaeology building. Grace Okonkwo attended the ceremony. Her children, now teenagers, stood beside her. Tillman watched from the back of the room as the department chair, a new hire, untouched by the scandal, read from Okonkwo's acknowledgments page. He had thanked his wife, his children, his mentors, and in the final line he had thanked the archivists and record keepers who preserve our history even when others would rather forget. Tillman stepped outside into the autumn air. The leaves were turning gold. Somewhere in the distance, a groundskeeper was filling in an old trench. The work continued. It always did.